It's been 9 years. I remember the feeling of playing the last No More Heroes game and it being generally okay, but there was something missing. It wasn't the gameplay, and it wasn't the music, definitely not the music. But it felt like something vital wasn't there. Maybe it's because Suda51, creator extraordinaire and director of the first No More Heroes, didn't direct No More Heroes 2. 2 felt like it was lacking the self-awareness and punk attitude that 1 had. So when I found out Suda51 would be returning to the director's chair for the newest No More Heroes, I got a bit pumped. Suda hasn't directed an original game since that first No More Heroes, so it's rather fitting that he'd return to the helm with this series. In case you're unaware, the mainline No More Heroes series is comprised of 2 games, No More Heroes 1 and 2 for the Nintendo Wii, and the franchise has laid dormant since 2010, while its developer, Grasshopper Manufacture, continued making new properties. The reveal of a new No More Heroes game at 2017's Switch conference took many by surprise. But I think people weren't quite expecting the game that we got. You see, Travis Strikes Again No More Heroes is a spin-off. Sort of. Suda51 doesn't want to say it's a spin-off. It's like a stepping stone on the road to No More Heroes 3, he said in his own words. It's kinda like the chain of memories of No More Heroes. To put it like that, a lot of important things happen in terms of the overall story, but it doesn't play the same and is structured differently. Sure, every level culminates in a boss, but Travis is not fighting his way up in the United Assassins Association this time. Instead, he's run away from his life after No More Heroes 2, hoping to find some solace in the great wilderness of Texas with his cat. All that changes, however, when he is ambushed by Badman, father of a character from the first game, Bad Girl, who is out to kill Travis, but he has a change of heart when he believes Travis can help him revive his daughter. You see, the core premise of the game is that by collecting these 6 items called the Death Balls, one of which Badman already has, someone will be able to make any wish they desire and have it come true. Badman is going to wish for his daughter to be alive again, and Travis has to find the rest of them to accomplish this. The Death Balls are the creation of a scientist and game developer named Dr. Juvenile, and have the unique property when played with the Death Drive Mark II to transport the player's consciousness into the game. What's really cool about the Death Drive is that it's treated very authentically by the game's universe. There are magazines that Travis collects that organically feed you background details on the system and each of the games, and they even give you some cute little cheat codes that can be inputted in the game for extra goodies. The game is presented usually from a top-down perspective and ends up playing like a 2D game most of the time. The game looks fine typically. It's not a looker aside from certain set pieces, but the environments do their job fine, and the character models and animations are great. However, in comparison to the previous installments and most Grasshopper Manufacture games, Travis Strikes Again runs beautifully. At most points, albeit with some dips, Travis Strikes Again will run at a smooth, solid 60 frames per second, which is a marked improvement over the unlocked frame rate of No More Heroes 1, which hovered around 30 to 45 frames per second, and the locked 30 frames per second of No More Heroes 2. As said before, Travis Strikes Again deviates from the usual No More Heroes formula, not only in the level structure, but also in the combat. Instead of focusing on stringing together combos and killing blows, the combat has its appeal in quickly dashing around enemies and dodging attacks to build up a super meter. No More Heroes 2 had a super meter, but Travis Strikes Again feels like it's actually built around this system. Whereas 2 would place hit-stun enemies that could shoot you from a long range in an instant and ruin your super meter, Travis Strikes Again perfectly telegraphs almost all enemy attacks to make maneuvering around them much more doable, and overall making the game a lot more fast-paced and fun. When you hit enough enemies, you gain the ability to do a 3-hit super attack. And afterwards, the number above your character will increase, and with it, so does your character's combat ability. As you continue evading and landing blows, your power builds up, and After executing another super, your character reaches max power, and your moves and supers reach their full potential. The core of the combat system is bolstered by a very extensive skill system, which gives you access to 4 extra moves of your choosing. You can mix and match different moves to suit your own playstyle, and though some seem much more useful than others, that may just be because they suit your own playstyle. But seriously, the move that stuns enemies by launching a projectile in a spread pattern is actually super overpowered. I never took it off for the whole game. It's way too useful. Alright, moving on. Instead of taking down other assassins, levels are spent fighting abstract enemies meant to represent the bugs in video games. And that's really fun. Every new enemy type has its own distinct profile and personality, and there's quite a good amount of variety in the enemy designs. And there's a good amount of variety in the games that Travis acquires that keeps the fun going and keeps Travis Strikes Again interesting up until the end. In particular, in true No More Heroes fashion, every level culminates with you taking on a boss, and these encounters are the biggest highlights of the game. It's very exhilarating zipping in and out of danger, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't prefer this playstyle over the previous games. It's certainly a lot more polished, and feels a lot more fair. The game relies on a leveling system which I almost always feel for non-RPGs is a crutch, but it works well here. Investing XP is optional, and I felt obligated to put all my XP into Travis, who I started playing with because hey, it's a No More Heroes game! A smarter player than I would realize that you can level up both characters at the same time. But alas, I couldn't play much as the second character, Badman. But with what little time I was able to play with him, I found he plays pretty different. Both characters have their own exclusive skills, and have their own string of heavy attacks and supers. And there's this really cool dynamic where if one character is getting low on health, you can switch to another. It seems like it'd be really beneficial for high difficulty playthroughs. And you can play the game in co-op with both characters at once. Co-op is frantic, and it's just so much fun. Aside from a few camera issues, I cannot stress how much fun this game is in co-op, and I hope to be able to play it some more again sometime soon. It's so much fun! If there's one thing about this game that definitely keeps the spirit of No More Heroes, it's the humor. The writing is wonderfully self-aware, to the point where they practically have no fourth wall. It's a joy. And hey, speaking of joy, after 9 years, it sure does feel nice to recharge my beam katana. One thing that's clear with this entry is that the budget isn't quite there. While I've already gone over the graphical presentation, it seems pretty apparent that the game looks the way it does because of budget restraints. Due to this, the music was composed by 2 series newcomers, DJ Abo and DJ 12, and it's quite good. While nothing in the game really got stuck in my head quite like the songs of previous entries did, there's definitely not a drop in quality. The beats really pull you in, and most of the tracks usually did a good job of enveloping me in a trance-like state, and made me feel like I was getting sucked into the experience, like there was nothing between myself and the game. Considering the game's premise, that's pretty fitting, and I commend the composers for pulling it off. Trust me, that kind of music is very hard to make without it getting grating or annoying. As is the case with the graphics and the music, due to the budget, there are hardly any traditional cutscenes, but I don't feel the game really needed them though. The writing alone is solid enough as is. Instead, the story is presented in visual novel-style dialogue sequences. In the game proper, we have art drawn by Liverpool artist Boneface, set to Star Fox-style gibberish. It's not the same artist as the past few games, Yusuke Kawasaki, but it's fantastically detailed and stylistically suits the tone of No More Heroes. Where the true meat of the game's story takes place is in the mode that the game dubs Travis Strikes Back. New chapters in this mode unlock after every level, and the graphics and presentation are styled like an old-school adventure game. If you thought No More Heroes was unhinged before, prepare yourself, because this is where the game goes completely off the rails. It constantly cracks jokes at the state of the No More Heroes franchise, the games industry, the fact that the developers have no budget, which is why they have to present the game like this in the first place, It's gleefully tongue-in-cheek, and I found myself bursting into laughter constantly, unprepared for what madness would come next. The final part of the story is a bit hidden. After every level, you will receive a fax from someone going by the moniker of K. K developed the Death Drive Mark II and its games along with Dr. Juvenile. What the game does not tell you about, and you will have a better and more coherent experience if you're aware of this, is that by successfully executing the cheat codes that were in the magazines I mentioned earlier, you will be sent an additional fax by K for each cheat code you input, which gives you some extra backstory. And on that note, we're going to have to go deeper into the plot. I wanted to avoid this initially, but after playing the game, I decided that the game's story was necessary to talk about. It's truly introspective, and I feel like the deeper meaning behind this game won't get enough exposure. I feel like with Suda51 games, they tend to be written off as just dumb by the contemporary games media, and there's a really good, deeper meaning behind this game, and I feel obligated to discuss it. If you don't want spoilers, you can skip to the timecode currently on screen for the conclusion of this review. But if you are someone who is on the fence about buying Travis Strikes Again, or maybe someone who didn't like Travis Strikes Again when you played it, please listen to what I have to say. You might change your mind. Everybody good? Okay. Here we go. Each of the fictional games in Travis Strikes Again makes reference to another piece of media. From the cheesy full-motion video of Game 2, to the very clear Nier Automata references in Game 3, to the Tron-style races of Game 4, the game is packed full of references. Hell, at the beginning of every game, Travis and co come in like Arnie from the Terminator, sans clothes and all. I found myself on the edge of my seat in anticipation for what kind of crazy thing the game would do next. I went into Travis Strikes Again blind, so I had no idea that Level 5, Killer Marathon, was going to be left unfinished. Instead of playing Killer Marathon, you walk through a level currently in development, and it fades out to white. And then it smacks you into an asteroids clone. I nearly fell out of my chair laughing. It was so funny. And then afterwards, you go through the usual Travis Strikes Back chapter, you get a new death ball, you plop it in, you prepare to play serious Moonlight, a horror RPG, and then the opening cutscene reveals Shadows of the Damned protagonist Garcia getting defeated, shot by a man with a golden gun, and Garcia's partner Johnson, now alone, turns into the level's boss, 8 Hearts.
Take over for me now.
Wait! What are you? Hey! Garcia!
7 of those bullets, yet he survives. You will become the hero, 8 Hearts. Do not let me down, Johnson. I mean, 8 Heart.
With the reveal of Serious Moonlight as Damned Dark Night, a fictional sequel to Shadows of the Damned, it starts to become clear that Travis Strikes Again isn't just a game about an otaku assassin trying to escape reality and collect 6 death balls to revive a woman he killed. It's also a game about Suda51 trying to find relief in video games and revive his career. It's a game about Goichi Suda, the man, his career, his passion, and the 11 years of endeavors that he and his company have faced since that first No More Heroes. So just as Travis Strikes Again is a vehicle for Suda to vent his frustration with the games industry, my review of Travis Strikes Again is a vehicle to discuss the hidden meanings of Travis Strikes Again. So I feel a history lesson is in order. Join me as we take a deep dive into Travis Strikes Again's subtext and the mind of the man, the legend, Suda 51.
You know, you can see it on the screen. In No More Heroes, you sit on the toilet to save the game. I guess making a game for me is a bit like that. When you take a shit, everything you've consumed is all mixed together. There are all sorts of things in that, and that's the same kind of idea, I think.
Goichi Suda first broke into the world of video games when he saw an advert for a job at Human Entertainment, the developers of the Fire Pro Wrestling series. He managed to work his way in by using his knowledge of wrestling, and impressed the company by the quality of his work on Super Fire Pro Wrestling 3. When it came time for Human to make another Fire Pro game, Suda was appointed director and head writer for Super Fire Pro Wrestling Special. He shocked players by having the main character commit suicide at the end of the campaign. Suda's next venture for the company would be his work on the Twilight Syndrome series. He entered development of the first game partway through, becoming its producer and acting director, but was given complete creative control of its sequel, Moonlight Syndrome. He shifted the tone of the sequel away from the supernatural into psychological horror, and gained further notoriety by killing off the main character. He generated a strong fan base for his unique work at Human Entertainment, but he was unsatisfied with the pay, and left the company feeling his position was unsecure. Human Entertainment closed their doors the following year. Enter Grasshopper Manufacture. Suda founded Grasshopper Manufacture to ensure he could continue creating original games. His first game was The Silver Case, a text-based adventure game, where Suda acted as director, game designer, and writer. It was developed on a tight budget, and had only a staff of 5, later 10, working on it. It was a success, and helped establish Suda as a cultural iconoclast in the games industry. Suda would then go on to make a few other titles at Grasshopper, but the biggest jump in his career would occur when he was approached by Capcom producer Shinji Mikami in 2002 to make a game for the Nintendo GameCube. Suda was repeatedly told by Mikami to let loose and make the game that he wanted, which ended up with Suda having almost complete control over the finished product, working on all aspects of it. The two developers grew a bond from working on the project together. The game that resolved from this partnership would go on to be known as Killer 7. While Killer 7 was not the biggest commercial success, it was a critical darling and became a cult classic. Fans enjoyed it for its deep, memorable, psychological storyline, the striking visual style and overall presentation, and its creative mix of shooter and adventure game elements. Most importantly, Killer 7 was released internationally, allowing Suda 51 and Grasshopper's unique style to break into Western homes. The success of Killer 7 led to a prolific future for Grasshopper and the success of its next major IP, No More Heroes. No More Heroes was a hit. Its brand of off-color humor, self-awareness, and fantastic writing and visual style gelled very well with audiences.
Moe.
In particular, the twist to make Travis Touchdown an unlikable asshole otaku subverted players' expectations for what kind of protagonist they would control in an action game. Travis was deliberately uncool, trying desperately to be as cool as the protagonists in the anime and manga and games that he admired, and was all the more memorable for it. The game received mass critical acclaim and sold extremely well, exceeding sales expectations. All seemed to be going well for this new title, and No More Heroes cemented itself as a Wii classic. But Suda did not return for the sequel. While Suda remained on as executive director, his absence as director, writer, and designer is felt. No More Heroes 2: Desperate Struggle was a significant departure from its predecessor. It feels floatier and less satisfying than the original, and is an almost complete tonal shift. 2 made the decision to disregard the plot twist of the first game, and most damningly of all, Travis is actually cool.
Everybody deals with grief differently, right? Some people fuck at funerals. I cut off heads.
He's cracking and landing one-liners with such grace it feels like he's straight out of a Resident Evil game. It went over about as well critically as the first, but it sold terribly, likely due to the waning popularity of the Wii with core gamers, leading to the franchise going dormant. At the time, Suda51 and Grasshopper had been working with EA in conjunction with longtime friend Shinji Mikami to make a horror game. The game went through 5 total revisions before it was approved by EA, and it released as Shadows of the Damned. Suda and Mikami would later remark that the finished game was not the one they had envisioned, and they were disappointed with the outcome of the project. EA pushed Suda around, forcing him to compromise his vision of the game to conform to their standards. They wanted Suda to make a game, but they wanted him to make their game.
Originally, I had the inspiration from Kafka's The Castle, and I wanted to create something similar. That's how I came up with the title, Kuriyami. In that title, the main character started off wearing nothing, and he doesn't even have a gun. He just talks to the people in town, and only at nighttime would he fight with demons. That's how I started. They suggested that no, instead you have to have guns, so that's why he has a gun. The Western style is guns.
Starting with Shadows of the Damned, Grasshopper's titles began to have less and less involvement from Suda, and started becoming more critically polarizing. 2012's Lollipop Chainsaw, a collaboration with Hollywood screenwriter James Gunn, was Grasshopper's most successful game of all time and the first to break 1 million copies sold, but it failed to leave much of an impact on critics and fans. Suda becomes more and more distant as the years go by. Publishers have been pushing Suda around. The much maligned gigolo missions were forced into Killer is Dead by its publisher in order to make the game appeal more to Japanese audiences. A passion project, Lily Bergamo, was scrapped in favor of the free-to-play Souls-Light Let It Die thanks to its funder and publisher, Gung Ho Entertainment, acquiring Grasshopper Manufacture in its entirety and upending creative control. Publishers wanted a piece of the Suda pie. They wanted the unique flair and creativity he and his company brought to the table, but they were unwilling to take the pie whole. So when it finally comes time for Suda to make a game again, he decides he's gonna make it his way. He's done being pushed around, even if it means going low budget. He was inspired by the creations of indie developers around the world and their ability to express themselves creatively. So he decided to go indie himself. Sort of. That's why there's a lot of references to indie games and even shirts depicting iconography from indie games in Travis Strikes Again. Travis Strikes Again also happened to coincide with Grasshopper's 20th anniversary, so it's jam-packed with references to Suda and Grasshopper's previous works. It's no coincidence that Travis Strikes Back begins with Travis meeting Kamui Urihara, hope I said that right, an important figure from the Silver Case. Travis goes on to meet other characters from Suda's past works, even Mondo from Killer is Dead. Hell, Travis meets a baseball player who played on the same team as Badman, named McAllister. He's from an Xbox Connect game called Diabolical Pitch, where a pitcher has to fight off monster hordes by throwing baseballs and hitting them with bats. The lore runs deep. Anyway, this all leads us back to the moment where Travis enters Serious Moonlight. In the Travis Strikes Back segment leading up to it, Travis recovers the ball from a rogue who hijacked Serious Moonlight and corrupted Dr. Juvenile's vision for the game. This guy, he felt that he had an idea for the perfect game. So they stole it from Juvenile and left the developer bloodied and battered. Literally. The reveal that Serious Moonlight is actually a sequel to Shadows of the Damned puts this encounter into a whole new light. The name of this man? Ricky Tello. The former CEO of EA who was in charge while Suda was making Shadows of the Damned. What's now clear is that Dr. Juvenile is a stand-in for Suda51. Ricky Tello stole the game, corrupted it into his own vision, just as EA stole Suda's game and twisted it into their own. Just as Juvenile was beaten up by Ricky Tello, Suda was left hurt by EA, unable to see his vision come to life. And Travis fucking murders him in cold blood. Suda just made Travis kill the CEO of EA. Holy shit! Damned Dark Knight ends on a positive note, with Johnson going off to save Garcia, and even pokes fun at the possibility of there being a sequel to Shadows of the Damned. So this is where the story should wrap up, shouldn't it? At this point, Travis has all 6 death balls, and Bad Girl has been revived, albeit as a dog. Don't question it. And Travis and Badman pretty much have no bad blood left between them. But not quite. If you've been a savvy game player and you've been keeping up with the faxes sent by Kay, the death balls have a second, far more sinister purpose. The death drive was an experiment by the CIA. By wearing the glove needed to interface with the death drive, it can create a clone of the wearer. The obvious implication being that the CIA could make an army of clones to wage war wherever they wanted. Gathering the 6 death balls triggers a machine left dormant in the CIA to start again. Clones will begin production again. Travis sets out to collect one final death ball, a prototype. Its name? CIA. Upon entering CIA, Travis realizes that he's in the real world. He's in the real CIA. But curiously, the bugs he's been fighting in the digital world up to this point are still present here. How can this be? Well, the faxes from Kay? Well, one of them mentions a coping mechanism for the clones. The clones can be remote controlled and have an implanted camera with a filter that sees other people as video game bugs, so they feel nothing when killing them. You're playing as a clone of Travis, and you're killing real people in the CIA. Fittingly, arcade machines containing Hotline Miami, don't question it, are strewn about the CIA. How appropriate is it that in the level where Travis loses touch with reality and goes on a killing spree, that Hotline Miami, a game about exactly that, is incorporated heavily. The CIA level ends with Travis presumably killing Dr. Juvenile, since Dr. Juvenile is Suda, this has a lot of implications. The CIA level up to this point has been a featureless series of corridors that goes on for far too long. As it goes on, it starts to lose meaning, even at one point making the player literally walk down a long, empty hallway. After a while, the only engaging parts of the level are when Travis interacts with Hotline Miami. I interpret this level as Suda losing meaning in his work, and only finding solace in playing other games. Dr. Juvenile's death is the death of the old Suda. So then Travis goes to Mars. There, a trippy pixel art scene plays out where Travis meets the creator of the original Death Drive, who has already taken refuge on Mars. It's rather surreal. Travis takes a hit off a fucking coffee bong. Then Travis's head gets lopped off. And then the credits blast, parodying Star Wars in the same way that the fake credits of No More Heroes 1 did. So, of course, it's not over. The Travis on Mars was a clone. By killing the clone, Travis's subconscious is able to return to Earth. And there, he meets up with Shinobu from the previous games. Talking to her triggers a dialogue and the real credits. It's accompanied by this really beautiful music track called Come to Me by Baku Furukawa. Wait a minute. What's this? This camera angle. This stance. I know this. No, it can't be.
Hey, quit fucking around. This isn't a game, you know. Get the hell out. Seriously. What the hell, man? Huh? Where is this? Open up your eyeballs, dude. We're in development. For what game?
Madman
Like
Suda.
I'm gonna tell
He's
you
gonna
that.
do it!
Boy.
Triumphantly! Even though Travis Strikes Again was clearly rushed to release and the ending was slapped together, Suda51 declares that it's not over. Not only is the game being finished in the DLC, hopefully with those loose plot threads being tied up, but with this post-credit scene, Suda declares loudly, I'm making fucking No More Heroes 3 and nobody can stop me! So yeah, Travis Strikes Again is a fun, albeit slightly bumpy wait, hold on. There's more? Okay. Yeah, in a patch added on day 7, they changed the intro cutscene. Right away, any observant Grasshopper fans will recognize the distinct Killer 7 art style. In this new intro, Dan Smith comes to kill Badman, who is actually Shingeki Birkin, the person who sold Dan out in a prequel novel to Killer 7 called Killer is Dead. It's only released in Japan. Hey, wait a second. Badman mentions his daughter's killer, and it seems the Killer 7 want Travis dead, so they give him a second chance, and instruct Badman to kill Travis. Dan Smith tosses Birkin the first death ball, and he tells him,
"This is your final ball."
Looks like my luck has changed. Shitty luck, but luck all the same. I'm gonna knock this last homer out of the goddamn park.
Don't end up getting beamed now. That's called a death ball, by the way. Now go kill Travis touchdown.
Man, the Killer 7 want to kill Travis touchdown. Jeez, if that's not a compelling setup for No More Heroes 3, I don't know what is. The thought of two of my favorite games crossing over is so tantalizing, and I really want it to happen now. Now I know what Suda meant about wanting to make No More Heroes 3, like the Avengers. It's a real quote, by the way. Check the description. So, all in all, Travis Strikes Again is a thoroughly personal game. It oozes the essence of Suda 51 throughout it. Travis Strikes Again is a vehicle for Suda to vent his anger with the games industry over the past decade. And it shows. All the jabs at modern games, Travis literally killing the CEO of EA. And the meaning beneath the surface. You can feel it, Suda's frustration, his anger, in his interviews, in his games. Suda has been trodden upon by the games industry, and yet even through it all, he stands strong, continuing to create. It's not the end of the world, and life moves on. We can erase the mistakes of our past and make a new tomorrow. That's what I interpret Travis Strikes Again as. Acknowledging and undoing all the mistakes made since No More Heroes. Looking back on and casting away the failures, but still keeping what you hold dear close. A few underrealized games is not the end of the world. So, what would I score it? Well, I can't, in good faith. The game is not finished, plain and simple. I'll be back to review the game in more detail in May, when the rest of the DLC is out and the game is finished, hopefully. But would I recommend Travis Strikes Again? Absolutely. Yes, the game launched unfinished, but I can't blame them. It's clearly a very low-budget affair, and the game is still fantastic. It's one of the most genuine and heartfelt games I've played in years. The developers, with what little resources they had, really put their heart and soul into their work, and it shows. It has charming writing, great music, fun gameplay, and real emotion at its core. You might need to be a fan of Suda to understand the deeper meaning behind this one. It might fall flat if you didn't play his previous works. But that's okay, because I can assure you, Travis Strikes Again, and the rest of Suda 51's catalog, is very worth your time.
Of the world and come to me. Can't you see this house unfold? Come to me. Now you stand beyond the fear. Yeah. So come.